Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is Spider-Man season, ladies and gentlemen, so these are some of the best Spider-Man movie scenes of all time, according to one Spidey-fan. First up, Spidey sends first Flash, Spider-Man 2002. Peter is still finding and adjusting to his new superpowers as a result of the bite. During this procedure, he prevents MJ from falling over while catching the contents of her lunch plate. In addition, he slingshots some macaroni at Flash, causing Peter to harass the bully. Next up, Spidey Kiss Mans 2002. Every 90s kid adored this scene, which was maybe why it was one of the most memorable superhero kisses of all time. She calls him back for a tiny thank you after protecting MJ from a few muggers in a pretty seedy New York alleyway. Next up, the death of the Green Goblin. The Green Goblin is one of Spider-Man's most dangerous foes, and we can't wait to see him again. The last time we did was when Spider-Man dodged his Goblin glider, causing it to crash on him and kill him. This was shortly after the epic bridge scene and his one-on-one battle with Spidey. Next up, Spider-Man is losing his abilities. The guilt of his uncle's death, murdering Norman Osborn, several jobs, money problems at home, and a rocky relationship with Mary Jane were all too much for Peter Parker, the decent guy. As a result, he lost his confidence, and as a result, his powers as well. He throws away his Spider-Man suit after a brief period of deliberation and consultation. Next up, Spider-Man swerves to avoid a train. After Doc Ock kidnaps MJ, he makes his big Spidey-Man is back statement by fighting him in and moving a full New York train. At one point, Doc Ock slams the train to full speed and abandons it, saying you have a train to catch. Peter then whips out hundreds of webs to stymie the train. This was without a doubt one of the greatest Spider-Man sequences of all time. Up next, Spider-Man 2, Harry discovers Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Following the train derailment, Doc Ock gives Peter to Harry Osborn, who promises him a large dose of tritium in exchange. As he removes the spider mask, he collapses in horror, realizing it's his best buddy. He then informs Peter about Doc's preparations, which will culminate in a last battle. Next up, Spider-Man 3, Peter Parker breaks free from Venom. Finally, the Venom symbiote gains control of Peter Parker, causing him to inadvertently hurt MJ. After some introspection on a church tower, he chooses to retire his infamous Venom outfit. He then manages to get free after a real brawl, then it grabs Eddie Brock. Next up, Spider-Man 3, Harry and Peter defend Mary Jane from Venom and Sandman. There's a lot going on in this scene. Spidey nearly dies, Harry saves him and then sacrifices himself, Venom is killed by a Goblin Pumpkin Bomb, and Sandman confesses to the murder of Uncle Ben. All of this occurred when Peter attempted to rescue MJ, a prisoner. Up next, the Amazing Spider-Man combat sequence in the sewers with the Lizard. Is it only me, or was the Lizard a little odd to look at? Perhaps it was just a lousy CGI. In the drains, the Lizard and Spider-Man had their first serious battle, and it was a fierce battle that left Spider-Man damaged. Also, speaking of leaving behind, the Lizard discovers a camera labeled Property of Peter Parker. Up next, the demise of Gwen Stacy, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. While Spider-Man and Goblin Jr. were busy exchanging blows, Stacy's life was in danger as she clung to life atop the electricity grid placed by Electro. Probably the most heart-wrenching, heart-pounding sequence, as Gwen loses her grasp on the web and falls to the earth, just as Spider-Man arrives to save her a little too late. Next up, Captain America Civil War Underoos. Not only was the major airport fight sequence one of the best Spider-Man movie scenes, but it was also a turning point in the Avengers timeline. It's Team Iron Man versus Team Captain America, and just as the combat begins, Stark cries out Underoos, prompting Spider-Man to swing in and steal Cap's shield. Next up, the Vulture appears on the ferry. The first official independent film starring Tom Holland as Peter Parker was Homecoming. He tries to intercept when he learns that something unusual is going to happen in the ship. In the midst of the mayhem, the boat is literally sliced open, and it's up to Spider-Man to keep it whole. Next up, the news flash. Peter Parker has been named Spider-Man in Spider-Man Far From Home. It appears that the cat is out of the bag. Mysterio, after being beaten by Spider-Man, leaves a modest present for all the New York news outlets. He reveals Spider-Man's true identity. This is where the film finishes, and Spider-Man No Way Home begins. Well guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video. See you all next time. Mysterio's plans, Peter discovers it was all a vision. Toying with Peter's thoughts, he unleashes a barrage of mind-bending illusions in an attempt to delve his remorse and fears.